Good afternoon. It's going to be the final part of the STV tracker of my final thoughts and conclusions. Just had a bit of scran, so nice and full and warm now. It's always good to get some calories down you, especially when it's cold. Temperature's dropped here, but I've had worse, so so the good old STV tracker. So what do I think about it? This is the sheath. I couldn't show you a close up before because it was on my belt. Tried to show you in part one, I think. Beautifully made Kydex sheath, very high quality. This is a little adaptation to what I did myself, so I can carry it on my belt. I don't like carrying things around my neck and having a strap here and things like that. I like to carry things on my belt. So yeah, the sheath is fantastic. Like I said, very high quality sheath, Kydex sheath, olive green, my favourite colour, that's a bonus. So yeah, faultless. So let's move on to the most important thing after using it, first impressions and things like that. So yeah, obviously using a big knife like this has its pros and cons, because it's a big chunky bit of steel, so it's never going to be your typical bushcraft knife. And like I said at the start, this is not a bushcraft knife. It wasn't designed or made that way. It was just a kind of a one tool option, where it's going to be master at nothing but accomplish most tasks in the field. But there is one thing that it's a master of, and that is chopping. So I think this is the second best chopper I have in my arsenal. My first being my Pride and Joy, my Bowie knife, but only because of the angle of the chop that you get from this knife. And obviously my Bowie knife is obviously a lot bigger, it's a lot heavier, and there's a lot more blade to give you that perfect chop. But this, out of all the knives, this is the second best chopper I've ever had. And believe me when I tell you, I have had hundreds and hundreds of knives over the years. Probably the past 30 years I've had knives all shapes and sizes, grinds and things, and so to say this is probably the second best chopper is it's obviously up there, I think. So yes, chopping faultless, really good chopper, really good. Even delicate work, this forward portion of the blade here is perfect for delicate work. You saw me make that temp peg and notching and things like that, so it's really good for a knife to have that portion there. Another thing obviously worth mentioning, the choil. I don't usually like choils, but they do come in handy when you've got very large or cumbersome blade, so obviously you can really choke up on it, so you haven't got that extra weight when you're gripping onto the handle. So it's going to fatigue your arm a lot less when you've got a choil there, so you can like do your fine carving. So pros, yeah, quite a lot of them. I thought somebody coming to the woods then. So pros, yeah, quite a lot of them. It's a beast of a chopper. This portion of the blade here was designed as like a mini hatchet, so it does perform quite well in the chopping performance, hence why I rank it in number 2 of my best choppers. It's got a really sharp blade, I think this is 01 Tool steel, which is a superb steel to use for this kind of heavy duty knife. Which is another pro, is obviously the steel choice is fantastic. I can't remember what Alex said the handle scales was made out of. I can't exactly remember, so I do apologise. I'll put a link down in the description of what everything's made out of if I remember to do it. So yeah, really grippy handle, really impressive handle, and you can obviously, because of the shape of the handle and where it comes to, you can really grip the handle at the very end of it and use all that forward weight into chopping, to aid you in chopping, which is what you want for a chopper. You want it to be heavy at this end. Really heavy duty construction, pretty much bomb proof. As far as knives go, this is probably the most solid knife I've ever probably had, which is another pro, another tick in the box. Really heavy duty construction. These scales are removable, by the way. Got like a star-shaped Allen key to fit in there. To do some maintenance or change scales, I don't know, it's up to you. So yeah, really big, really thick, heavy duty tracker knife. Definitely the best tracker knife I've ever used, by a long shot, and definitely beats Topps tracker, because that thing was terrible. You have to do all kinds of mods to the Topps tracker to make it your own, but this doesn't really need any modifications to it. But there will be some mods that I'd like done to it, which I will be doing at some point, which I'll discuss in this video as well. Like the fact that you've got the 90-degree spine, your really sharp spine here, as I demonstrated in the video for striking ferro rods and getting the bark off sticks and etc. Obviously I didn't demonstrate the fire rod, but you can definitely use a fire rod, sorry, ferro rod with this. Definitely both sides, actually, this portion of the blade here and this portion of the blade here, although I'd be very uncomfortable of using this portion of the blade to strike a fire steel. Although this cutout area here is perfect for putting your thumb there, for striking a ferro rod or debarking things. So that's another plus. As I said before, it does come with an attachment, like a brass attachment that slots into here, and that helps you when you're doing your bow drill exercise. So the idea is you put the attachment into this hole here, and you put your drill, your stick through there, and it basically just makes it spin the spindle a lot faster and less friction. So all that downward pressure is going to make your ember, build your ember up a lot faster, which I will demonstrate at some point, which I've forgot to bring with me today. So yeah, there's that construction. We've discussed that, its chopping capabilities, the fact you can choke it up on it. Another pro is obviously the tip area, the reinforced tip. Really strong tip, probably again the strongest tip I've ever had on any knife. That's one area where a lot of knives would fail. I mean, you've seen the video, what I did to that tip. Obviously I hammered on the pommel here into a log, and definitely the log would split in two before the knife did. There was no damage to the tip whatsoever. It didn't bend, it didn't snap off, and that's because the way the tip has been reinforced with that kind of angled chisel bit, which really reinforces that tip. So you can smash on this all day long at that tip and pierce things and it wouldn't make no difference to the tip, would not snap off whatsoever, or any part of this knife wouldn't snap off. So there's that. So that's another plus, that's another pro for this. One thing I will demonstrate again in the future, which is this hole there. So you can use things to bend, like maybe bend some wire, or stripping roots, bark off of roots and things, or even nettles. And I suppose you could probably put some kind of lashing in there, like a loop, and use it as a lanyard as well, if you really wanted to grip up on the knife. I know some people like holes down here for lanyards rather than up here, to really wrap around the palm of your hand, so I suppose you can do that as well. Trying to think if there's any more pros. And mention the grip. This texture, I don't know if you've seen that before, this texture on the spine. Again, attention to detail. Really, really grippy, especially when you choke them up on that choil. Really grippy that is, especially when you're chopping as well, because obviously it runs from there all the way through there and underneath as well, so that aids in gripping. So when your hands get sweaty in summer, or if your hands are wet with the wet weather, then the chance of this slipping out your hand is very, very minimal, in my opinion. Pros, yeah, so I probably think that's about it for pros. I think I've addressed everything. Now, so I took a sip of my tea. I always make my tea good cold. Yeah, the reason why I'm talking such a low pitch is because there's a lot of people out today, and I don't want to kind of give my position away where I am at the minute, because we're so close to the dog walking trail. Already seeing people today in the distance, and touch wood, they've not seen me. It's kind of just a secret location where I like to chill out and do my videos and things. But yeah, back onto the knife, get back on track, Lee. The grind, convex grind on this, it's superb. Heat treat, very well done. The temper, very well done. This guy Kev Cunningham from Origin really knows how to make a blade. He really knows how to heat treat and temper a blade to absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. I mean, what I put it through today is just the very bare minimal to what I could actually put this through. I could be a lot harder on this blade, and this blade would just laugh it off easy. But the heat treat and temper of this blade is absolutely spot on. It couldn't get any better. The grind on it, the convex grind, is, again, it's probably one of the best convex grinds I've ever seen on this portion of the blade. For me personally, I would have gone with 2 different grinds for a tracker knife, but this is my opinion. This is what I would do for the perfect tracker knife for me. Okay, is this portion of the blade here, keep it as is, not touch that whatsoever. The convex grind on here is absolutely superb. It'll smash through anything, smash through any wood like butter. Okay, but for smaller tasks, I would not make this bit here convex grind. I would probably make it, I won't say Scandi, because it'd be really hard to make this into a Scandi, and that transition from here to here. But I'd probably say maybe, I don't know, a hollow grind or something like that. Or like I say, you could do a Scandi grind if you wanted the skill, and Kev's definitely got the skill, but I think Kev specialises in convex grinds. He's probably one of the best to do convex grinds. But yeah, that's one thing I would change. I would change that there to a different grind compared to that one. This I'd leave it as it is, because this is the axe part, this is the hatchet part of your blade, so that needs to remain a convex grind no matter what. But this part, yeah, for me to do more of the delicate tasks, I'd choose a different grind for this part here. Another con to this knife, and this is the biggest issue for me, is this part here. Now, a tracker knife, obviously, for all intents and purposes, was designed for a one tool option in the wild. So obviously when you're in the wild, you don't have a small knife, you don't have a hatchet or a saw or things like that. So if you had one tool option to survive with for many months, and you choose this one, you'd have to have some sort of saw on there, which obviously this one's got, which I'll show you, which I demonstrated. Now there's nothing wrong with this saw, not much anyway. It does its job, it bites deep into the wood, especially during notching, which I demonstrated for you in the third installment, part 3. The biggest issue for me, well, there's two, is the ripsaw here. The ripsaw for me is a little bit too thick. It could do with thinning out a bit. For when you, I think by thinning this out, it would stick a lot less into the wood than it does. It's really hard to saw with this. You'd have to make sure it's perfectly straight, and it takes a lot of practice to make this work as a saw, and it does it quite well with a little bit of practice. I think for a novice, they're probably not going to get on with the saw bit at first, but take it into the field, practice, and you'll get the hang of it. I'm getting the hang of it now, but I still do feel that I think it could have done with it being thinner, the saw bit thinner on the edge. I can understand why it's so thick, because obviously it's used for notching thick wood and cutting trees down, thick trees, rather than smaller sticks. But if this is all I had, then I wouldn't complain about it. It does its job. So unlike the tops version of the saw on the spine, this isn't a gimmick, because obviously as you saw me demonstrate, this does actually work as a saw, despite the thickness of the saw, the rip saw. It really does, when you've had more practice, it really does go through wood like butter. And obviously the reason why you got the cover is because again, unlike a lot of tracker knives, especially the tops, this is really sharp, guys. That's why you have a cover with it. And even though you see me keep touching it, I'm not putting any pressure on it, because you know, I have already cut myself with this, not today, but on a different day. It is really sharp, this saw, and that's hence why you need a cover for it. So that's another con for it, is if I was to have a saw on the back of my blade, I'd have it probably more user friendly and have it more thinner. But whether or not you could do something like this with a knife this thick, I'm not too sure. I'm not an expert in making knives, and I never claim to be. So maybe it's something that Kev and Alex at Easy Going Outdoors would look into, see if they can modify that saw to be a bit more user friendly. I'm not too sure, but that's just my opinion anyway. It might work for other people, I'm not too sure. It's just my 2 pence worth. And coming back to the saw again, which is another negative for me, Again, this is my personal opinion. I don't like knives with a sawback spine. Okay, I never have done. I've always carried a folding saw with me, but on a different page, if this is the only tool I had, I wouldn't be disappointed. I'd prefer to have a folding saw with me, or any kind of saw that I can easily manage. But this being a one tool option, obviously you've got the saw and everything else on here that you need. So it's kind of a positive and a negative, pro and con really, a bit of both. So but that's more of a kind of 50-50, that's a personal preference thing. So for me, I don't like saws on blades. So coming back to the saw again, another con would be sorry about that, my rubbish bag started blowing away. Let's put that that's it. Wind got up and started to blow my rubbish bag away. But anyway, yeah, coming back to the saw, another con for me is when you're using this for fine tasks. Now I know, and Alex from Easy Going Outdoors keeps telling me off about this, and I know for a fact he's going to be watching this video. But yes, I know, Alex, that this is not a bushcraft knife. Okay, I know that. But for me, if I was to make this as a one tool option, I'd make it more user friendly so that you can choke up on it and you know, put your thumb on the spine bit here and do more finer tasks, rather than having this, taking this on and off. I mean, eventually, me being me, eventually, or anybody else maybe, eventually you could end up losing this. You know, you take it off, you put it down somewhere, and yes, it's red, and so it's a lot easier to see in this kind of environment, but there is a possibility that you could lose this. Or maybe you put it in your pocket, your trouser pocket, your coat pocket, or whatever pocket you've got, and it happens to fall out. So that's another possibility. For me, that's a negative, because without this cover on, you're going to have to be careful. This knife then becomes dangerous without this cover. Okay, so, and the Kynex sheath itself, I've tried this, and you can't really put this in with the Kynex sheath without the cover on. It's because obviously Kynex is shaped and molded to the shape of your knife, so obviously this sheath was molded around this knife with this cover on, and the saw is so sharp that it would dig into the sheath and it would just obliterate. After a while, it just chew the sheath to bits. So that's another negative. Again, this is just my opinion on what I would think, what I would want as my personal tracker knife. And at some point when I save up, because this is an expensive knife, okay, but that's not a negative. That's because what you're getting for the money dear God, what you get for the money is well worth it, because shall I say, when you're spending a lot of money on a knife or a tool, okay, same as a backpack, okay, so let's not get into rich and poor or bushcraft snobbery here. This is not what I'm on about. I'm on about, this is an investment piece, okay, so you only have to buy this once to your specifications, okay, so for the money that you're paying for this, you're damn right it's worth it. By all means, buy a cheaper tracker by any means, but I can guarantee you it won't be as good as this. Definitely not. And I'll challenge anybody live on video, whoever thinks a cheaper tracker knife is better than this and could withstand more than what this can. I'll challenge anybody to buy a retail tracker knife and put it against this one, because you won't find any retail tracker knife that can take as much as what this one can, and that is what you're paying for. This is an investment piece. So don't buy it if it costs £300, £400, £500, which is to me a hell of a lot of money. I don't actually know the price of this knife, so I can't tell you. It all depends on materials, what you ask for and things like that. But looking at the quality of this, I got this in a trade, by the way, so I didn't actually buy it directly from Kev. I got this in a trade. I think I traded some knives with it. I can't remember. I can't actually remember now, but because there's no way I can afford to buy something this. Well, I could, but I'd have to pay installments, or I'd have to do a lot of saving up. But there's no question about it, this is an investment piece. Okay, so all the people thinking, yeah, I bet that costs like £400 or £500. Maybe it does, but that's what you're paying for. You get what you pay for. Okay, I'm sorry, I mean, the Tops tracker knife, okay, that's over £200, probably around 250 quid. I think that's the cheapest I've seen it for. Some places sell it at 280, nearly 300 quid for the Tops version. I mean, yeah, it's heavy duty, it's like a tank, but it's not as ergonomic as this. The grinds on the Tops version is not as good as this. No way, no way. And that is the #1 mod that people do when they get a Tops tracker, is they change the grind. So they change this portion, they change that portion, because Tops made their grind too thick. The shoulder, which is the bevel, just the top part of the bevel, they made the shoulder too thick. It is way too thick behind the edge on the Tops version, not this version, on the Tops version, Tom Brown tracker version. It was way too thick, and so every time you chopped with it, you wasn't actually chopping with it, you was actually obliterating the wood. So you was snapping, breaking the wood, rather than the blades cutting through it. But this is different. You can see from my videos, the part 3 on how cleanly this cut through the wood. Okay, there was no ridges in the wood, it was just a clean cut. Yes, it took a couple of swings. It is cold today. I'm not making excuses, but on one of the swings I did it in one go. So, and it's a bit hard in these conditions with I'm like a swamp today, on a bit of log, balancing a stick with everything moving and things. But get me a bigger log, like a proper chopping log, and this would work a lot better. You can easily chop a tree down with this, dead easy, because it works. That forward balance, that forward weight is just incredible. But yeah, the con with the saw, yeah, so that's another con with the saw. I think most of the cons with this knife is going to be the saw. Because I don't like it. I don't like a saw on my blade. It gets in the way. I don't like the fact that you've got to take this off and then discard it somewhere and put it in your pocket. So again, that's a negative for me. But the concept, it works. It definitely works. I think one of the mods I'm going to do is probably going to flatten this area here, so probably maybe 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, I'd thought, so it's straight up to here, so that I've got more room to put my thumb. Now you can do this with the cover. You can put the cover on, again that's what it's for, and then you can put your thumb on the back of there or your hand on the back of there, and that's what it's for. But me being me, and I'm very forgetful, is I know one day I'm probably going to misplace the cover from the saw, and then that will make this into kind of a dangerous tool then. But again, that's my opinions. So you can, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong Alex, but I think Kev can make a version, probably a straight version, where you don't have to have the saw, and that's one of the things I'm probably going to be saving up for, is a tracker pretty much the same as this, same specs, everything, same build quality, but without the saw. I think that's what I'm going to do, I think, rather than trying to do the mod myself. Let the professionals do the work, not me. So yeah, like I say, most of the cons is the saw. I don't like saws. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but that's probably the only negative, the biggest negative is for me is that. And again, really sorry, but going back to the saw again, let me just see. Okay, so this is the stick I used to baton this to make some kindling. Okay, as you can see, that's the damage it did to the baton. So when you're batoning with this knife, your baton is not going to last long at all. That's going to chew through that like butter. I've got my tea again. I'm always doing this. Yeah, it's gone cold now. Oh. Probably hear that dog in the background. That's how close we are to the trail. But anyway, so yeah, you baton with this. There's no real other areas you can use to strike this other than the spine when you're batoning. And this is going to destroy your baton in seconds, especially if you've made a baton by hand like I did this several months ago. If I use this today for this, probably nothing left of this, and I'd have to make another one. But the idea from a maybe survival or bushcraft perspective is to look after your tools. Obviously this is a tool, however this is a tool as well. This is a tool that needs to last, and your baton that you've made for a permanent camp is not going to last long when you're hitting this to split wood. So again, like I said, most of the cons is that saw. This is why I don't agree with having saws at the back, or any kind of, not just tracker knives, but any kind of knife like your typical 80s Rambo knife, with the saw back spine and things like that. It's a bit of a fad back in the day, but it's the same thing. You strike anything with a saw on the back of your blade, especially sharp as this, your baton ain't going to last long at all. So yeah, the fact that you can hammer this into a stationary log, hammer the pommel, and then use it for maybe shaving some sticks, some feather sticks, or even using it as a splitting wedge. Now I am confident that you can use this as a splitting wedge, and that's how strong it is, that's how strong that tip is. Yeah, it definitely would split wood as a splitting wedge. I think that's one of the designs that Alex and Kev came up with that reinforced tip, that kind of chisel like tip. Because it really does work to penetrate wood really well. And maybe if you've got a few tins of beans and things like that, and you just happen to misplace your tin opener or something like that, I don't know, then this would get through that like butter. This tip is just incredibly strong. It's almost like a pry bar, and yeah, this is not the thickest knife that I've seen, but it's thick enough. I'm not too sure how thick it is. I'd say by eye, I'd say it's about 6mm thick, which is thick enough for any heavy duty knife. Doesn't really need to be thicker than that. 6mm thick is in the ballpark, kind of where you need your heavy duty knife to be. If I was using a knife for nothing but heavy duty, it definitely would be 6mm. Nothing less than that. It'd have to be 6, and this is on the ballpark, I think, of 6mm. So you don't need it thicker than this. And yet, for a thick, big knife, and because of the way it's designed, you can easily do the finer tasks, which obviously I demonstrated. Again, there's not a lot of large knives where you can just pick a thin stick up and just straight away, with no worries whatsoever. If I do this quickly, because this video's dragging on, and just do that, just a notch, within seconds, So it's a large knife, it's a thick knife, but it's not unwieldy. It does feel heavy when it's on your belt, but with a knife this big and this heavy, it's something to be expected. I mean, this is nowhere near as big as my Bowie knife I've got, which again I'll have to do a video on. That thing is just massive compared to this. I mean, this is a dwarf compared to my my Bowie knife. So you don't really feel this on your belt as much as other knives that I've used. Sharpness as well. Obviously he's got the tempered heat treat bang on. Very easy to sharpen this. So easy. That's if you know what you're doing with a convex grind, which again I will probably do a video on. I think I've done a sharpening video before, but I'm not too sure if I've done a convex grind sharpening, so I'll have to think about doing that as well. But every angle of this knife is absolute perfection. There's no uneven grinds. The plunge lines are 100% straight. Everything is just 100%. The grinds are absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. It's faultless, and that's why you're paying. This is like an investment piece, because it is absolutely bang on the money. I mean, it's just faultless. The lines, the grind lines, everything is just 100% straight. The quarter round does its job. So it's good for feather sticks, as I demonstrated. I know I'm waffling on a bit here, guys, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of my personal opinions of it and my conclusions. So yeah, it is an investment piece. I do highly recommend it. But obviously, if I was to change anything, it obviously, as you well know, would be the saw. I would not have the saw on there. To me, it has no purpose. What I want to do in a large knife, I'm very experienced in large knives, especially Bowie knives, traditional Bowie style knives, and I've had a little bit of experience with trackers as well, not as much as Alex, but I do know how to use them. But for me, having a large knife goes in hand for so many things, and this is no exception whatsoever. So have I regretted getting this in a trade? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's definitely the best tracker I've ever used, definitely. Like I said, I'm going to save up and come up with a design with Kev, and maybe with Alex as well, with Alex's input, because he's the foremost expert in these kind of knives. Maybe even have a meeting with him and then see if we can come up with a design that would suit me and my needs, because everybody's needs is different, every human is different, and that is just my opinions of what I would want in a tracker knife for me. So I'd eliminate the saw straight away, because again, that's serves no purpose for me. So I'm going to wrap that up because it's 41 minutes. So yeah, highly recommended. This is Origin STV tracker, which stands for Straight Variation, Straight Tracker Variation, STV, because before in one of the videos I think I got it wrong. Well, the S stands for straight and not standard. So yeah, very good knife, well worth an investment. Extremely tough tank of a knife, will last you many years if you look after it. So there's the pros, there's the cons, nothing more to say. 42 minutes now, so I'm signing off. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you've managed to watch all 4 parts, not got bored of me rabbiting on, so probably just going to be wrap up now and head back home. Now it's getting a bit dark. So yeah, I'll have a hot cup of tea this time and then go back, I think, because I've still got some unfinished projects to do. Let's start that when I get back. So thanks for watching, and this is the STV tracker made by Kev Cunningham, the owner of Origin, in collaboration with Alex Mayer, who is the kind of tester for Kev. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye for now.